21st head coach in the Nets history. Welcome. Glad to have you here, Kenny.
Thank you. I'm very excited, and like I said in the beginning of the press conference, thankful to Mr. Prokhorov for choosing me. Thank you for, Sean. I'm really looking forward to this. Ready to get started.
I was going to say, because you had spent some time finishing things up, obviously, with the Atlanta Hawks during the playoffs. But what's it like now that you can put your full focus towards getting things going here with the Brooklyn Nets?
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind because we're in the playoffs, and then basically had a week, since we finished the playoffs to this happened. So I would say this is like my second real day on the job, and it's been a whirlwind, really. I went to the Chicago draft combine to look at some players and received a lot of congrats, and so it was great to see a lot of your colleagues that were happy for you, and from scouts to GMs, and so that was excellent. And today was my first day in the gym with the players, and that's what I really enjoy.
Was this the first time you saw the training facility?
No, I'd seen the training facility before, but the first day I really worked and broke a sweat with the players and connected with them, and it was great. I'm looking forward to just the rest of this week after this press conference to getting back to work.
Yeah, what are the first steps for you? What do you try to tackle first when really taking these steps to get going?
Yeah, so the first thing to me is evaluating the Brooklyn Nets players, and from being in the league, I know a fair amount about them, but to be a head coach of the team, you really, really have to get intimate, and so it's going to be a lot of watching video of them last year, and really my focus right now is where can we help these guys get better this summer? What are their weaknesses? What are areas they can improve on? So that's my focus as a head coach, and then of course helping and talking with Sean about free agency and our draft pick and how we can do the best job possible there.
How do you need to shift your focus or your approach now that you're moving over a seat and now that you're a head coach and as you start to fill out your staff? What changes from your perspective in terms of your responsibilities?
Yeah, whoa, so they say that's the biggest jump in my profession. That's a huge jump. I think it's many things. It's being more presidential instead of always working with each player individually. I'm going to have to let my assistants do it, which is going to be tough. I think getting up to speed tactically and game management are going to be two important areas. It's big. You have a hand in it as assistant, but you're not calling the shots. But really, I think in this type of job, like, are you ever really ready? It's like any jump, career jump. So a lot of it's going to be you got to be in it. You got to experience it first. And I just hope my accumulated experience with a lot of good organizations, a lot of good teams, a lot of good head coaches, that's going to help my decision making on a day-to-day basis as a head coach.
Yeah, you talk about that, and obviously the experience you've had and who you've coached under, whether it be Mike Budenholzer or Mark D'Antoni. But what are some of the biggest things you take away from those experiences and from what you've learned, not only being an assistant coach, but also the years you spent playing overseas?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought the overseas, because that's a big, I didn't mention in my opening statement in the press conference, but having played overseas, having coached overseas, it was really made me look at the game a little bit differently than, say, if I was just in America the whole time. And so that was a big part. So I'm taking all these experiences. I was just thinking of a drill I learned from a Canadian coach that I played for over in France. I said, man, I could use that drill. And a Greek coach I worked with, I was thinking of an offense, a specific play he ran at the end of the game. So I'm starting to use all these experiences, and obviously being around great NBA coaches is the best. With D'Antoni and Adelman and Budenholzer, that's kind of formed the core of I think who I'll be. And the challenge of all that is how are you gonna prioritize, and how you're going to form, your identity and what your team's identity is going to be.
First, touching on the overseas, and I know Sean has mentioned many times being strategic and obviously liking the international influence that he's able to bring, that you're now able to bring. Are there things you point to or identify about players overseas that you think you can see, they might be able to fit well in the NBA, or just different characteristics in players overseas that you think can be a carryover?
Sure. I do think, I look at like a guy like Bogdanovic, like, his skill level for that size, and normally they're skilled players that can shoot, the players that make it from overseas to here, and those are two huge characteristics in today's NBA. You got to be able to shoot the ball, and skill is of the utmost importance. So, believe me, we have an eye, many eyes on the international market, and which is great, which I think goes with the identity of Brooklyn. Diverse population, people from everywhere, and goes with the identity of New York. So I'm comfortable coaching guys that played overseas, haven't played FIBA basketball, coach FIBA basketball. I think that'll be a big help, and my staff is going to be geared towards being able to work with those guys and help them get better.
You talk about Brooklyn identity, and we loved hearing during your press conference, from your high school coaches and growing up, but being a New York native, a Long Island native, having your family here, what extra significance does this Brooklyn Nets job bring, and just this opportunity not only to be a head coach in the NBA, but to be able to do it here?
Well, I think that's part of the reason I got emotional during my press conference, because this is where you grew up. I grew up, listening to all the radio stations here and all the TV stations. I know the people. I kind of grew up with them, and the newspapers, and so I know the media part. And I know all the players that have played for the Nets, and Dr. J was like my favorite player when I was like 5 years old, and I used to listen to the Nets game. I used to listen to the Net on WYMCA. John Sterling was announcing, and I could have been sick. I can't remember. I had a black transistor radio. I'm dating myself now. No. And I used to listen to those Nets games, and I saw John Sterling, by the way. We were playing Boston in the playoffs, and I saw him in the hotel, and I ran over to John, and I said, "John, you're not going to believe this. When I was 7, he goes, 'You're the coach of the Brooklyn Nets.'" So it was very, very funny exchange in a hotel lobby in Boston, and he remembered. He said, "Oh yeah, MCA and YMCA," and I forget what the dial number was, but that was the. This is part of who I am, and that's why it makes it more emotional, more personal, more intimate.
Part of who you are, and part of course, your journey getting here, which is incredible to see and to hear about. But where this work ethic, we hear about this work ethic. Where did this come from?
My parents, my dad, commuted in on the LIRR to New York City, an hour there, hour back. He used to joke I spent 3 years of my life on the Long Island Railroad, but I'd see him leave. I didn't see him leave. He'd leave get on the 5:40 train, and I wouldn't see him in the morning, before school, and then he'd come home. I go up with my mom to the train station at, on the 6:40 or whatever. He'd come home, eat his dinner. I'd say, maybe 5 words to him, and I was up to bed. So I'd, see him for. So I didn't realize it at that age, but it was being ingrained. Like, man, this guy is, busting his tail for this family every day. And then my mom raised 8 kids, so seeing her work ethic, and that's the biggest job of all. And without any help, she somehow made it through. So that's really where I kind of formed my kind of work ethic watching them.
Where did the warming up barefoot come from? We got to hear the story. Do you warm up barefoot? With the players, with the guys?
Sometimes, yeah. Who told you? Horford or
Bazemore
told
came
you
out.
that?
So we've been saying universal praise.
Yeah.
And that's certainly what it's been. But your Hawks players were just saying incredible things. Jeremy Lin, of course, all the players talking about what you did. But Ken Bazemore was one guy who he said you have a swag about you. You're always in shape. You're always working out with them. But he said you even come out and do push-ups and warm up barefoot.
Yeah, I think it's important that those guys see that you're in tune, like you are ready. You were taking this seriously. You're prepared to work with them. I thought that was an important thing as an assistant coach. I think now as a head coach, I'll be watching film of the Boston Celtics and how to stop them. So it's going to be a great transition. But yeah, and that's one of the things I think outside of the box when it comes to training. Like if even our players, shooting jump shots in bare feet, maybe that's the next new thing. So I try out different things myself, and that was one of the things. I forget exactly where that came from, but I liked it. I think it's something about the natural movement of your feet.
Yeah, some people run barefoot.
Why can't a basketball player do that?
I love it. I love it. You talk about the transition though, and of course it's going to be exciting for all of us to be a part of it, and we certainly appreciate your time here with us today. We're thrilled to have you, and just welcome to the Brooklyn Nets and to this community.
Well, thank you very much, and I'm thrilled to become the 21st coach of the Brooklyn Nets, and now it's time to get to work, and before you know it, the season will be here, and we'll be talking a lot, I assume.